Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I'm going to be doing a new video series as part of the Share Your Battle challenge that Splinterlands does, because I do want to start earning some more from the team. And those who don't know about this, you'll also learn a little bit about it as we go over this, and then I share some battles. So firstly, we're going to check out the post. Anyone who doesn't follow Splinterlands or isn't that aware, if you play this game, they give you chances to win things. They have a Twitter contest to win some packs that are pretty easy. It's mostly just logging into the Gleam app and doing some likes of their post and stuff like that, following them, joining their Discord, things like that get you entries to win some free packs. They do a social media challenge, and then they do a Battle Mage Secrets Challenge. Each one of these can let you earn a vote from this team, and I go ahead and I take part in these. Now I'll go ahead and bring my blog up on another tab to show you that I usually do the social media post. Here's an example of one of my normal video posts that me and Baby Omega do. We get $3 to $4 in rewards on these posts. Here's an example of me doing one that I shared and the team supported, got me up to $14. Also, occasionally these votes will be bigger or smaller. As you can see, if you go through here, here's one where I got 17. And then there's some other ones if I go through here. Most of the time, if they're bigger rewards, it's because I shared them as something where the team also supported it. It's also because a lot of us follow the Splinterlands team vote. So getting a vote from them also gets you a vote from some of these other people quite frequently. All right, let's go ahead and get into talking about the Battle Mage Secret Weekly Challenge. Now, this one changed. It used to be more about a monster, and then I think they kind of understood that that was making things be a little bit more repetitive when it came to the content that was being created. And so since these tend to get shared a lot of places as well, I think this is a much better route to go. So now they usually pick a rule set, or they sometimes pick something a little bit similar. So this time we're going with Noxious Fumes. Now, anybody who doesn't know what Noxious Fumes is, it's basically all units start out with poison. Poison is 2 damage per turn at the beginning of each turn, except for the very first turn. You don't usually, I don't believe, we'll double check with the battle, but I don't think you start with poison on the first turn. But going into turn 2, everybody's going to take 2 damage per turn unless they are a monster with immunity. Now, that obviously means the monsters with immunity are the monsters that are usually the best to help counter this. So let's go ahead and talk about your options of monsters with immunity in Modern. Now, I'm a Modern player currently, but I do have more than Modern cards on me as I'm getting ready for land. But if we go over here to abilities on the list here, we can search up immunity. And we can take a look at these. Now, luckily, all my monsters that I currently own that have immunity are modern cards and can be used within the ecosystem. Now, I'll tell you, the duo that is used the most frequently by players when they can in high enough mana matches is going to be Crawless and Adela. They're also going to combo this out together, usually with a Martyr card in between the two of these, and that'll allow them to Martyr up 2 times with the Resurrect here in that poison match, and they cannot be poisoned. They can't be prevented from being healed. And with Wraith, Adela can actually be double healing Crawless up in the front if you turn this into Void Armor. That is one of the best combos in the game. Now, Death has an immunity monster, but because the Death team doesn't have healers or cleansers or as much triage as the other teams, they're not typically used that often in Noxious Fumes. Now, however, a card that is used by people who maybe don't have a Crawless, this is an older Untamed card, even myself, I only have a level 3, you could put Almo in front of Adela as well, or you could use Almo with some of the other teams. The Ventilator Kenjo is actually a great combo card to add into a deck that has a Noxious Fume rule set, because if you're using a card like Almo that has some return fire or any other options of return fire are comboed into it, he has that amplify, he has that slow to slow the team down, he won't die, and he could be put behind Almo in case somebody happens to bring blast damage to the match. These 4 cards are really the stars of immunity currently in the modern format. You do have Poseidon here. Again, I only have him at level 3. He might get some play because the blue team does have some good ways to counter this. Because what's the other thing you can do besides being immune? Well, let's talk about one of the other abilities that is really helpful here. So let's go with Cleanse. Who has a Cleanse when it comes to modern cards? This right here, this is not a modern card. So the fire team does not have a Cleanse. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. We're going to take, I had legendaries on there. We're going to go back. Let's go back a second. I was going to say, man, that immunity card list looked kind of small. I forgot I had a filter on it. Now, obviously, you can bring Quora if you have her at level 4. This is an interesting monster, the Vampiric Bloom. Now, the Revealer is a great card I would have forgotten to talk about here. And obviously, the Fire Team has the Forgotten One. These are other cards that have immunity. Now, I just actually got this card to level 5 about a week ago. I think I forgot that it has immunity. So if you've gotten this Soul card, Evelyn, all the way up to level 5, this is another option that you can use as somebody who can be in that second position or an interesting position to avoid some of that blast damage if a blast is mixed in. This is really making the white team just that much better. But let's go ahead and go look at the cleanses. And what I'll do to clean this up is we'll click on here and here. That'll at least only give us the modern ones. I'm going to leave the gladiators out for now. I could add them in. All it would really add in is Soul, but she's a legendary card you might not even have, and you'd have to use special summoners. So I figure we shouldn't really talk about them. Now, as you can see, the white team not only has people with immunity, but they have a lot of people with cleanse. That's kind of interesting because they don't really need it as bad, but it does allow them in some smaller mana matches where you can't use those really big cards that they have to throw a card like Truth Speaker on the board with just about any self-healing tank that you can throw in the first position, and you're going to be having a double healing non-poison tank as long as this Truth Speaker is alive, and that's an interesting play as well. Now, Noxious Fumes, there is obviously Lamacron, Llama, any self-healing monster, Llama Pellicor, Llama anything. It's really Pellicor or Kron. Those can be played basically in 14 and 17 match manas, and if you really wanted to, you could do them in 15 or 16. You could actually even do a Pellicor Llama in like a 17 mana match where you throw a martyr card in front of him or behind him with the poison that's going to kill it so that the Pellicor gets even bigger and stronger. These are plays, they can work, they will beat somebody that doesn't have a good counter to them, but actually one of the best mid to low mana teams out there seems to be blue. Blue has the Kelp Initiative with a cleanse triage. They have a speed cleanse triage, and they actually have one more cleanse here in high mana. But the main reason that they're so good is because one of the other counters to this cleansing is triage. Now one of the differences, though, you'll see here once we bring this up, is that the green team has a lot of triage too, but their triage monsters have pretty low life. When you look at the blue team, they have this combo right here that is pretty spectacular. They can, and this is where Lily comes kind of interestingly into the play. However, the white team will not be undone when you get into higher mana matches because they have this card with a big triage, and then they have Chancius they can bring into the board. Given you might be wanting to use Wraith in those higher mana matches to give Crawlus that void armor and Adela a healed in effect to anybody on the board. But, you know, if you don't have Wraith or maybe you don't think that's necessary, you can have this extra triage with Jin Renovas. But all of these ones, these three, are kind of tough to use because the poison's going to kill them relatively quickly. This one is a more usable than it looks like if you're using it with Jin Renova and Chancius the Great, because then you have 3 triages going on in the back, and you do have this strengthen, putting this one up to a 5 HP, as long as you aren't getting weakened. But again, white seems to be the kings kind of higher mana, while blues being the kings of mid to lower mana. And then Lily bringing Scale Doctor into a game can make things obviously very interesting, more competitive for a lot of different teams. The Udor Dampier is an interesting card, 9 mana. He gets hot since it's high mana games. He can be used with for a triage in the back row and do some interesting things, but it can't always outlast what white can do when they really combo in all those cards that they can use. The last thing to kind of mention here, it's for Noxious Fumes when it comes to abilities. Let's see, is Life Leech. And this is just to show you some of the round out goodness that is in some of the teams. The white team has the Stitch Leech that they can throw onto the board, and Adela the Radiant, with also Zerial, if it really got kind of interesting, to not only have back row triages, immunity monsters, and healing with cleanses, but have monsters who are going to life leech. But the king of life leeching and making a really competitive team are here, here, and here. This is what can make death a little bit more competitive in poison if you really have them as one of the few options, because if you can get some life leech going, popping some redemptions, it could work out for you. However, it doesn't tend to overwhelm the other teams and what they are able to do. So I would still lead towards these guys actually being more the star of the show, these 3 cards, when you are going into a game where all the monsters, even Stevens are, no, it's not even Stevens. It's I forget the name of it. It's the one where everybody gets the same amount of HP. All right, let's go ahead and get into some battles and show you what happened. I'm going to start off by showing you my battle that I want to share to show you how I used a variation of the white team that I talked about, because we were in a combo match here that allowed me to play with some of the cards that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be so amazing. Okay, let's get into the match here. So we're gonna have, let me get the rules set up for you so you can see. So we have Noxious Fumes, we have Equalizer, that's the one I couldn't remember the name of, and we also have Aim True, so no missing is going to happen in here. Now, normally in an Aim True match, you're going to want to go with a lot of speed, but in an Equalizer game with Noxious Fumes, I felt like these were the more important ones to go with, because even though people are going to be hitting quickly, no one's going to be missing, you might be wanting to deal a lot of damage, you're going to want to have monsters on the board that can deal with either poison so that they don't die so easily, or you want monsters that are going to get a big advantage from having all this extra HP because they wouldn't normally have it. So when you look at our 2 lineups here, and I'll go ahead and give a shout out to Bliss Wizard, we battle a lot now in Modern. He went for kind of a similar team. He has an Adela. I have an Adela. We both here did a Harpy, because Harpies are only 2 cost, and when you bump them up to that big HP, you're going to get that. Now, I went for the one time, not taking any damage on the hit, and then the big differences started to change in there. I went with the Dr. Blight. Even though this is a poison match, I do understand that there could be healing in a poison match or cleansing in a poison match. Dr. Blight going last can in a normal speed game, he can get that poison back in place, or he can stop a healing from going on if they were to go with a healing monster. Now, he also, starting at 9 HP, he has that scavenge ability, so since other people are probably going to start dying before him, he can get that big scavenge going on. The other thing I decided to do that they did not decide to do was go with a cleanse and a triage here. Now, they might not have a herbalist like I do at level 9, which I still haven't even maxed it out, but it's still a handy little card here with the triage and a cleanse. I went with this card instead of Truth Speaker because I thought it was a better combo to go ahead and go here with the Imperialist Knight. He has the Void Armor with the Magic Reflect with a Self-Heal, right? So I did that combo in here, and then I was able to pick up a pretty nice a triage cleanse here, so I have that cleanse for him, but he's going to be really reliant on healing himself, except for the fact that I played Adela, who has a repair. He has Void Armor all by himself, so she is kind of also doing a heal as long as they're As long as that is there. And armor heal is a little bit interesting when it's void armor, because sometimes it can take two different attacks if those attacks are weaker. I went here with the Rooney. The Rooney's really here because he has his own resurrect. So even if he doesn't get, when he dies, he'll come back and he'll have that opportunity to not be poisoned anymore and go ahead and help the Celestial Harpy taking people out. My lineup is kind of interesting. Rethinking this, I probably should have swapped around the Rooney and the Harpy. I don't know why I put the Harpy, them in this order. It ended up working out okay for me, mainly because on the other side, you can see he went with a Blinding Reflector. This was kind of an interesting play, but luckily for me, I didn't go with any really big magic hitters. So even though he's bouncing back magic at twice the damage, they have 9 HP and only are attacking for 2. So they would normally only take 1. They're only going to take pot shots back at 2, and one of them is immune. So Adele is not going to take that poison damage. Yes, this could have been kind of problematic for Blight, but since he didn't play any kind of cleansing or healing for this, and even though he does have an armor repair, it's not really quite that good. The one interesting card though here, the Carnage Titan with that double attack and all that armor, is kind of an interesting card because a lot of my damage is not is going to run into that shielded armor. So we'll go ahead and watch the battle happen here, and we'll talk about what ends up happening. I end up winning this fairly easily, even though it doesn't maybe look like I would. You can see there, one of the things I did get happening, and this was actually maybe coincidental but worked out really well, was that this card and this card are the same speed. Archers go first in regular speed, so the cleanse went before his attack, so he got his self-heal in. Now you can see he does die here, but we have his resurrection, and then he comes back up with all that void armor and with the shield, so he doesn't even get hit. We take his guy out, but now, we're bouncing some magic damage back. He's gonna, I have to admit, I was expecting him to be a little bit tankier, but he's still going to do a good job here. He's not poisoned, so he's not going to die after being resurrected right away, and he's going to end up absorbing quite a few hits. He takes down 4 of those attacks this round before he ends up dying. Now, he doesn't get another attack, but luckily, Blight takes out the Carnage Titan. We take out Adela. I'm finally able to get a nice little strike in there with my Rooney. And now all we have to do is finish Adela off, and then Poison would take out the rest of them. My Harpy does end up dying, but we finish off the round with just one person left for the Rooney to crush, actually, with his final attack. And we get ourselves a nice win. So, as you can see there, I went with some of those cards I talked about. Basically, I went with Adela. I substituted in the True Speaker for that triage, so I had a cleanse triage. This was because I knew everybody in the back row would have good HP. She'd be able to triage pretty good heals. And it was just overall a good battle. Now, one of the things that was kind of interesting here, when I was looking at top battles just a moment, we have a few more Noxious Fumes games we could look at. So here are some Llama games. These ones were higher mana. When we check out the rule set, let's see why they might have went Llama. Well, White was not available, and Dragon wasn't available, and this is 44 mana. This is where Llama games can get kind of interesting. It's actually kind of interesting how similar these lineups are, but how different they are when it just comes to a few of the cards. Mainly Blight versus the Goblin Psychic, and the Failed Summoner versus the Princess. This is double healing going into this position with a cleanse. So this looks like they're going to have enough healing maybe to keep him up. That would give them a small advantage, because this is not really going to be doing that much. It is weakening these two cards. I think top has the advantage here. Let's see if I'm right. The armor is all going to get cleansed away. The cleansing removes the actual weakness on the other unicorn on the top. Let's see, we're going to get the bouncing back here. He does land the affliction. I guess the one thing, if he attacks before the Goblin Psychic every time, he can prevent that second heal, but he can't prevent the heal from the princess, because the princess is going to go before Blight. Oh, but the top did lose their unicorn first. So I might have misjudged that healing ability, because if Blight lands his affliction, he didn't land it this time though. So now the Goblin Psychic is actually going to get the heal in place. This is going to be an interesting one. This is going to be an interesting speed check. If top can attack first, they're going to win. See, so they got the cleanse in place, got the armor back, and then were able to heal up and attack. So that was a big difference. You're going to see some bounce back magic here. That's kind of interesting, because now you are going to see the queen die. Is that going to be enough? Can Blight steal this game from top? I don't know. You got a self-healing tank up in the front who's going to get cleansed. So it's always going to be able to self-heal. And when Blight doesn't get an affliction, but now it's losing its back row heal. So the back row heal is gone. Still though, I think this is just too much. You got a last stand Kron, but you've got a self-healing hitting for 4, and 9 hitting from the back. That's gonna put that Kron at a lower advantage here. I think he is actually going to be able to kill that. But see, now we got a last stand battle going on here. But you got the one on the left here with that extra HP. So he's going to end up winning this match just barely, even though they are actually in a situation where they are stuck. Oh, that's interesting though. He's healing for 7. Oh, that's funny. So even though they're exactly the same, because the Krons are only hitting for 6, they're both going to get max healed. Oh, this is a very interesting game. This is one of those games that they've talked about in the new with the little thing they mentioned to the team, that they should make a tie. Because they both ended up with identical Krons at the end. One of them is going to win here. It's going to come down to who attacks first on this round. Right there. So now the bottom won that match just because their Kron attacked first. That's a tough loss. I think there was one more we could bring up here to show you. And then we're going to end this, because I don't really think these videos should be too long when we're going over the battles. I know there was one more, but did it get... Oh, it might have got pushed off. Unfortunately, I can't freeze this battle screen. Yeah, it got pushed out of there. So we're just going to end it there. Thanks for everybody that checked this out. Hopefully I gave you a good idea of how you can win some Noxious Fumes battles. And we got a live example of why maybe those games should become a draw when you get a mirror match late in the game, because to lose that one is tough. Bye, everyone.